Franchising also, there's an investment in it. It's probably not as big as many people believe. Franchises will quote for you a total investment of what, based on their experience of doing this dozens, if not hundreds of times, they have a good idea of what the total investment should be for anybody to get in the business. And then they got a good track record and they'll tell you what that is. In addition to that, there's a franchise fee. The franchise fee is the one-time upfront fee that you pay to that franchise in exchange for getting the training. A protected territory like Rhett has, all of South Mecklenburg County. Enhance cannot put another franchisee in South Mecklenburg County. It's all his. Okay? So you get that protected territory, you get the training, you get the name brand for that franchise fee. Franchise fees usually run in between $10,000 and $60,000. McDonald's. What do you think the franchise fee is for McDonald's? How much? 1.5 million. Any other guesses?
700,000.
700,000?
It's at least $1 million.
It's actually 45,000. The franchise fee is not the biggest part of the investment.
Fee. Okay.
Franchise fee.
All right.
That franchise fee to get into that business. 45,000 for McDonald's. With the biggest part of the investment in a McDonald's or any kind of place like that is the real estate.
Yeah.
It's the store, it's the brick and mortar, it's the countertops, it's the cooking equipment, it's the people you pay that stand behind the counter. That's the biggest part of your investment. Whether it's a franchise or not, a non-franchise restaurant. That's going to be the biggest part of your investment. Ray Kroc always said he was not in the business of hamburgers as much as he was in the business of real estate. Okay? That's why for a lot of my clients over the last year, in fact, their preference has been in non-brick and mortar businesses. Much lower investment levels. Like Rhett, getting into the enhanced mobile business. Jacob's business, where he goes out and does the water damage restoration. He doesn't need a storefront for that. He needs a place like a commercial warehouse area where he can store his truck and his equipment. But that's a low-cost place compared to retail places. So like a McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, the biggest part of the investment is the real estate side. But you can make a lot of money in businesses that are not real estate based. Okay? So as I said, with McDonald's, even the franchise fee is only about $45,000. And I say only. I know that that's a lot. But it's not the million plus that most people think. It will cost you over $1 million for a building and all of that stuff.
That's what I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What's the royalty percentage?
Royalties, and I was going to get to that in fact. A royalty is usually a percent of your revenue that you pay back to the franchise company. That's something that is effectively their financial incentive to continue to help their franchisees be successful. That's the incentive that rewards them for being there to help you, train you, offer new programs. What that amount is going to vary greatly from company to company, usually from industry to industry. I see anywhere from 2 or 3% up to 12 or even 20% in some cases. But there's no surprises there. You know what it is up front before you go into the business. Okay? McDonald's, the royalty is around 12%. So out of every dollar you pay, about 12 cents goes back to McDonald's Corporation. The rest of it stays there with the local franchise. But you should, when you compare royalties, you should compare within an industry because you can't. It's really unfair to compare a fast food restaurant royalty to a sign company royalty to a wood floor restoration royalty. It's different for different people. The thing is about franchising is it's highly regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. Franchises are required to give people who have an interest in it a disclosure document. It tells a lot about their past, their history, their information, their financial background. And so you know well in advance what you're getting into before you get into it. So there are a few surprises. Also, I think it's important when people look at a franchise, go talk with other people who've gone into that business. I don't want you taking the word of the franchise parent company or what's written in that document. Go out there and talk with other franchisees, other people who were in your shoes at one time. Ask them questions. How did you get into business? What kind of training did you get? How well did it prepare you to be successful? What's a typical day like? And even, how much money do you make? It's okay to ask those questions. franchising compared to starting a business from scratch, there's a wealth of information out there that you can learn from. And you need to ask those questions. And I encourage people to ask a lot of questions before you decide if it is right. All I do in my business is help people explore different options. I take them through an interview process, use some assessment tools to help them understand their style, their behavioral style, their work style, help understand what kind of environment might be a good fit for them, and help them explore different options and compare and contrast different possibilities. Let me pause there, see what other questions you might have at this point.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
Some franchise said you have to have multiple stores to really be profitable.
Mm-hmm.
When you find a franchise that does just the opposite, so you only need one store to be profitable, is that a indication of a well-run or a very profitable franchise? You don't need multiple stores to make money?
Yeah, I mean, there are cases like that. They showed you some examples. Subway sandwich shop. Usually small square footage. You're relying on lunch and dinner traffic. Probably for the most part, it's lunch traffic. Those are going to make $30,000 to $60,000 a year. Depends on the maturity of it, depends on where it's located, depends on a lot of things, of course. 30 to 60,000. For many people, they say, boy, that's not enough for me. And many people, who if they own just one, probably the owners behind the counter also. That's an example of the kind of business where the real money can be made when you own 3, 4, 5, 6 of those or more. You get a lot more synergy that way. Hey, if an employee calls in sick over here, maybe I can bring an employee from this store over to cover. I haven't lost anything. I, as an owner, still don't have to get involved and do it. Advertising. My advertising dollar goes a lot further per store than it does if I just had one store. So that's the kind of business where having multiple locations is probably helpful. I think of a sign business. Because a lot of the sign businesses are franchises. Think of Fast Sign, Signs by Tomorrow, Signs Now. They make signs. They make name tags like what Jeff is wearing. They make signs out in front of churches. They make temporary things, vinyl banners promoting events and so on. Sign companies do this in kind of a manufacturing business with a sales angle to it. Now, most of those owners of those companies, they own just the one. I mean, that's sufficient for them. They can make good money. They can make good six-figure incomes with just the one location. It's probably rare in that kind of case where someone owns more than one. I just realized the gentleman who asked the question left the room.
In a typical strip shopping center, what percentage of the stores in there would be franchises? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I haven't thought about what the percentage might be, but sometimes it's hard to tell whether something is a franchise or if it's a company-owned location. Starbucks. Most people think, well, it's a franchise. It's not. Nearly all of those are company-owned locations, with a few exceptions. Usually what you can tell, there may be something either on the front door or on other correspondence or advertising that may say something about each store is independently owned and operated. That tells you it's a franchise. That tells you it's a franchise. Each store is independently owned and operated. That is, we're not the corporation's not running this, it's somebody local.